Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video. Let's start off with apologizing. I was gone for 2 weeks and I didn't say anything about it. This video was supposed to be live last week, but when I was going through editing I was realizing that for some reason the audio was cutting in and out. So I decided that I was going to skip 2 weeks and spend some time on this video and go out and re-record to make sure it's perfect. So with that out of the way, I would like to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving. I know I'm kind of late on it, but better than never. So today we're going to talk about the time that I was a WildLand FireFighter for 6 months. And I know some of you guys are probably wondering, how did I become a WildLand FireFighter with no high school diploma as a high school dropout? Well, you're about to find out. So to start off, at 18 years old, I decided to drop out of high school. I was dealing with some family problems at the time, and I also had the mindset that a piece of paper doesn't mean I'm going to have a good job. So due to that little mindset, as soon as I turned 18, I filled out my paperwork to drop out of school, and I became a no-life at that point. All I did was sit home and play video games and go out and skate and wait for my friends to get home to go out and skate some more. So we're going to stop for some gas and we're going to continue this story. Yeah, girl, you take that gas. Alright, so we just got some gas. So in 2017, I kind of decided that being at no life wasn't the way I wanted, and I wanted a better life for me. And I couldn't do that by being a high school dropout and being a loser. So I started looking for jobs, and then my dad sent me a link to a job where I could work and get job experience and also get my high school diploma. So I was like, alright, like, this is something that could benefit me. Not only am I making the money, but I'm still getting time for classes. So I applied to the link, and the link was for the California Conservation Corps. And they emailed me right away, probably the next day, asking me if I could go meet with their recruiter. So I go, I'm talking to the dude, I'm like, I want to get my high school diploma, but I also want to get a good job experience. So he's like, the California Conservation Corps teams up with Caltrans. If you don't know, Caltrans does a lot of work on the side of the freeways, and like they do a lot of the road work and stuff like that. So they also had contracts with CAL FIRE for a WildLand FireFighter. I had no idea what that was, and it kind of sounded interesting because I kind of always wanted to be a firefighter. But this was not the experience I was expecting. So the center they were sending me to was in Auburn, California, which is about 30 minutes from Sacramento. So he told me, hey, we're going to send you here. They're getting ready to start their fire crew. So they need people that are determined to become firefighters and get this crew started. Ah. Okay, so I get there, show up, I'm thinking I'm the only one there. I find out I didn't need to be there until Monday, so the recruiter lied to me. So I walk in the room, it's like a room full of 30 beds, they call it the Comet Room. I walk in and I meet one other kid that's there with me. His name's Tucker. We did the 2 weeks of Comet, and then after that we did about a month and a half of just regular C's work, you know, Caltrans, cleaning up freeways, doing all that stuff. And then after that month, that's when the CAL FIRE people came, and we started our CAL FIRE training. And everything, I was fine with everything, learning the tools, learning how to use the tools, learning like what means what. But when it came to the paperwork stuff, I was having a lot of trouble. due to having ADHD, learning disability, I was not understanding a lot of the stuff I was reading. So then we're learning how to put our nomads on really fast, getting into that out of the truck, what our roles are in the crew. Like, we're learning all this stuff. And the thing is, we had to learn it in a very short period of time. I think we had to learn it in about 2 months, because then we had to go do our test that would determine if we would be a type 1 or type 2 crew. And if you guys don't really know what that means, type 2 means that we can't fight the fire head on. We pretty much would have to do cleanup, meaning, like, let's say this field was on fire, we weren't allowed to go into the fire. We would have to wait for a type 1 crew to come over, fight the fire, and then we would have to clean up their job. And a type 1 meant that we could fight fires head on. We could go on big fires and be inches from the fire and fight it. And that's kind of what everyone we wanted as a crew. We wanted to be a type 1 crew. So after that, we did our test, and it was about a week and a half, about 2 weeks, before we were really allowed to go on our first fire. So our very first fire that we were ever sent to, we had to be helicoptered in to the top of this mountain. And I am absolutely terrified of heights. So that was the worst. It was the worst experience, but at the same time, I've never been in a helicopter, so it was the coolest experience of my life. So then we went to a couple fires up in Butte. They weren't really too serious. I mean, they were little. So we all started thinking, like, oh, these fires are getting smaller. Fire season must be over. So then people started putting in their requests to go home for vacation or over, like, time off. They started telling us, like, yeah, we plan on going back to center next week. Well, that's not what happened. The day that we're getting told we're getting ready to head home back to center, we were told that morning at breakfast that we are going up to Oregon. People are a little butthurt, everyone's kind of angry. But at the same time that we understood this was our job, we get to the center, and again, you know, we had to sleep in tents. And they're like, hey, we need you to hike through where Butte hiked, because overnight it burned over their line. And we just need you guys to go back through it and clean it up and start another line, because we think that fire's gonna go this way. So we're like, yeah, whatever, we got this. We get there, and we're looking at Butte's line. And during training, we were taught the line has to be about 3 feet, 2 feet, about 2 feet wide. Their line isn't even like a foot wide. It's like chicken scratches. Like, it looked like toddlers did it. So we have to fix their line on top of starting our own. So we did a lot of work, and this went on for about 2 days. So we fixed their line, hiked down this hill, did all their stuff, and then we finally got to where we were going to start, and we started doing our line. So they want us to go cut line down this sketchy ass mountainside, and they're like, hey, you're going to cut line until you hit this river. We're like, okay, cool. So the chainsaw crews start going, and we get down to the bottom, and it's not a river, it's a cliff. It's probably like a 30-foot drop. Then there's a river. So we just stopped. We were like, yeah, we're not cutting anymore. And then the worst part is we couldn't find a way back up the hill, because the way we came down was really sandy, and there was really no way to climb back up. Alright, so one of our captains came, so we found a way back up, back to the crew. At that point, we were notified that my captain was helicoptered out being stung by bees, and a kid on my crew was helicoptered out from a heat stroke. But with that situation was the situation that kind of made me realize that I wasn't afraid of dying. Like, if I died on a fire, then I knew I died doing something. I died doing something important. I died doing something that I thought was right, keeping other people safe, even though I have a very strong dislike for humans, which is really weird. We'll get into that on a totally different video. My fear was being burned alive, because I've heard that being burned alive is the most painful death ever. I really didn't want to have a death like the Great Amount of Hotshots. And if you guys don't know who they were a hotshot crew in Arizona who died from burning over due to terrible communication. So at that time I was like, no, I don't think the fire stuff is up. My 2 weeks home were cool, but I did a lot of thinking on my 2 weeks, and that's when I really was like, okay, I really don't want to do this fire job anymore. Like, over my 6 months, I've watched a lot of shit go down, and I personally just didn't like it. I didn't like the terrible communication. I didn't like any of that. So when I came back to the seas, we were put on staffing pattern, which was some bullshit. And if you don't know what staffing pattern is pretty much like they expect there's going to be fire, so we're on the clock. So we can't leave center, you can't do pretty much anything. They want to make sure you're ready at all times. So yeah, we were put on staffing pattern because I was still on my pay time off. I didn't have to participate, but I got a phone call saying like, staffing pattern is on, that you need to get back to center, and if you don't get back to center, that you're going to get fired. And I was like, well, this is bullshit that I have time off and you're telling me to be, even though I'm on my time off, I still need to get back to center, and I'm on a train coming home and there's nothing I can do. So a week went by, we went to another fire, and I thought there was no issue with it, you know, I thought whatever. That weekend, I was pulled into the office, and they were like, okay, do you have anywhere to live, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, why? Like, oh, well, you're being terminated because you weren't there for staffing pattern. And I was gonna fight. I was gonna be like, well, I was on time off, like, they knew I wasn't coming back until Monday, and this is a Sunday, and all of this. But I was like, you know what? I'm cool with it. Like, I'm cool going home. I don't want to do this fire stuff that much anymore. Like, it's sketchy. So I packed my bags and I came home. Now I'm working at O'Reilly's. I've been working there for 2 years. That's when we got our acceptance checks, and I decided with that acceptance check that I was going to use it to start my YouTube career. That I've been wanting to do YouTube for years, probably since I was about 16. And finally I was in an opportunity where I had a motorcycle that my dad got me for my birthday, and I had this acceptance check, and I looked up and I could buy everything I needed for YouTube. So that's how I became a WildLand FireFighter and ended up becoming a YouTuber after, which is kind of weird to me still, but... And in next video, we're going to get to the topic of why I became a YouTuber. Thank you guys for tuning in to another video. I appreciate every single one of you guys. And I hope you guys have a fantastic week, and I hope you guys are safe out there. I know all the COVID stuff has taken back off again, and cases have gone crazy. So be safe out there. Make sure you don't get anyone sick. And make sure you don't get yourself sick, because that COVID stuff sucks. I'll see every single one of you guys again here next week with a new video. So, peace.